behind those success stories, and a lady who is very passionate in this community. I'm going to let her tell her story. If you guys please put your hands together for my dear friend, Kristina Wildeveld.
Thank you. My name is Kristina Wildeveld, and I was asked to come up and say a few words about my life story and who I am and what I do. I am a local criminal defense attorney. I started practicing 21 years ago. I was an intern for a federal judge, Judge Philip Pro, here in Las Vegas. I didn't always want to be an attorney. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be an ER doc. And I want to welcome all the people who are watching on the podcast today, because I know there are a lot of people also watching live stream from all over the country who are tuning in today for this very important summit. So I was an intern for a federal judge after I didn't become a doctor. And then I went on to clerk for a local state court judge, and he was the chief judge of the family division. And as the chief judge, he was in charge of not only the domestic track and TPOs and guardianships, but also juvenile delinquency and abuse and neglect. So because of that, I became very involved in the foster care system, and I've been on the CASA board for the last 21 years. And then when it came time when my clerkship was over, there was like, what do you want to do? Well, some very important people in the community said, you know what, I know your history, I know your background, I'm Italian from Chicago. I think you would be a great criminal defense attorney. So there's a new office opening called the Office of the Special Public Defender that was doing nothing but death penalty cases, first-degree murder defense. Like, I'm 27 years old. I'm going to do death penalty defense. And so I met with a gentleman you're going to meet later today, who is now a Supreme Court Justice. He's going to be at the graduation, Michael Cherry, and I was hired as a young deputy doing nothing but first-degree murder defense. I was 27 years old. So because of that, I was given oftentimes the younger kids in the office. So I was representing 14, 15, and 16-year-old kids who were facing first-degree murder charges. I learned quickly, very quickly, that the sentences that were handed down, they were sentencing kids based on the most horrific acts, oftentimes of the worst one day of their entire life, without knowing anything about the kid that was being sentenced, but only based on their offense. And these sentences were labeling these kids as irredeemable. Well, I didn't see them as irredeemable. And so I couldn't be here today talking about my life or my work or my career without inviting some of my kids here with me today. So for the last 21 years, I have the people standing behind me who are my family and who are my kids. So I'd like to introduce you to Tracy Rutherford, who at 16 years old was convicted of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to 15 years to life. After being denied parole numerous times, I took her before the Nevada Pardons Board. She was pardoned at 16 years, after serving 16 years. Today, she is a mother. She is married to a military man. She is a Republican office holder and lives in the state of Nevada. In the state of Washington. She travels around the country with me, advocating to eliminate life without the possibility of parole for juveniles on behalf of the Campaign for Fair Sentencing for Youth. At 15 years old, we have Mario Taylor, who served 16 years of a 40-year sentence. I'm sorry, 90-year sentence. Thank you for correcting me, Mario. Mario was pardoned after serving 16 years. He was serving a 40-year sentence. The governor of the state of Nevada pardoned him after 16 years. at 15 years old, Richard Gaston, who is graduating today from Hope for Prisoners. Richard Gaston has never held a gun. He was convicted of murder at 15 years old. He served 23 years. He was denied a pardon in 2009 because the victim's family was adamantly against it. He was released on July 20th? June 23rd of this year. Marcus Dixon, who has been my son for the last 18 years. He was 14 years old when he was convicted of first-degree murder. He served 17 years for first-degree murder. He was offered a sentence of 10 to 25 years. And at 10 to 20, in 1998, I was on my hands and knees begging a 14-year-old child to take a deal of 10 to 25 years. He said no jury would ever convict a 14-year-old child of first-degree murder. I said they will, and they are going to. You need to take the deal. I withdrew as an attorney of record, and I asked the court to appoint me as guardian ad litem to take the deal on his behalf. The court said, Ms. Wildeveld, we don't have a guardian ad litem in the state of Nevada. And I said, we don't, but we need to.
That's right.
He needs to take the deal. His mother never once called me. She never checked in with me. She never asked how her son was doing. She never went to go visit him in prison, and to this day is still a crack addict. I've been there for him and talked to him every single day for 18 years of his life. When I married my husband 15 years ago, I said, honey, we already have kids. We have a lot of them, all different colors, all different shapes and sizes. And then Julius, at 14 years old, was also convicted. He was represented by my partner of 20 years, my law partner. And he was just released after serving 20 years because of the new law that was just enacted that I worked on that eliminated life without the possibility of parole in the state of Nevada. So he was just released in June or July. You were July 20th. See, I knew I had that date. Julius was just released on July 20th of this year. I talk to most of them on a weekly or daily basis. I have the luck and pleasure of each one of them popping into my office all the time. My staff all knows, Mark's is here, Richard's here, Mario's here. They're my family. They are members of our community. They are each convicted of the most heinous and horrific crimes, yet they are redeemable. They all have value. Their lives all have value.
That's right.
On October 22nd, Richard Gaston is getting married, and and it's the same day that my 14-year-old daughter is going to homecoming. And I have to somehow figure out how I'm going to do 14-year-old homecoming and Richard's wedding at the same time. And I'm going to make it work because they're all my kids. So out of the 5 of them, they have served 100 years between them. Their ages at sentencing totaled 74 years. Their sentences they were sentenced to and should have served, but for the Pardons Board, was over 200 years to life. Let me tell you, it's a little different to the way I practice. When I don't represent a lot of vetoes, and the vetoes that you represent, the innocent ones, are the hardest ones to represent. Those are the hardest ones for a defense attorney. I represent a lot of people who are guilty, and I don't play games with it. I don't say, let's find a way to manipulate the jury. I say, let's find a way to get through this. Let's find a way for you to serve your time and get back into the community so you can continue living your life, but living your life in a better way. So you can get married, so you can have children, so you can get, Mario is married, Heather, stand up. He's married to a beautiful wife. Mario's one of my greatest success stories. I don't have to worry about Mario. I don't have to worry what he's doing every day. I know that Mario is succeeding in his job, in his marriage, in his home, that he's not going to be reoffending. I don't have to worry about what his neighbors think. He is a good neighbor. He is a good employee. Same with Tracy, who is doing what she needs to do in the state of Washington, being a great representative. All of them. I know that each one of them, I can say, will never reoffend again. They will make their probation officers proud. So when I go in, when I represent these people who commit these horrific crimes, I say to them, let's see what kind of deal we can get. These crimes don't need to go before a jury. Let's negotiate your cases. There's some cases that need to go before a jury trial, but for the majority, those people who commit a crime, see how much time we can get, do your time, be a reflection of who you are while in prison. And a lot was said about that yesterday. You often show who you are going to be when you're out while you're serving your time. All of these people are a reflection of who they are out while they were serving their time. While they were serving their time, they're exactly how they are now. They were all model inmates. They weren't picking up disciplinaries. They were doing their time respectfully. And I say to my current clients, they say, are you going to get me out in 10 years? If I take this deal, are you going to get me out in 10 years? I say, no. You are going to get yourself out in 10 years. You are going to go into prison and do what you need to do to get yourself out in 10 years. You are going to make the changes you need to make. You're going to hook up with the right people in there. You're going to do the right programs. You're going to get an education. And then when you get out, you're going to find Hope for Prisoners. And you're going to go through Hope for Prisoners. And you are going to show the community that you are not a reflection of the worst act of your life, of that worst crime you've committed or the worst day, and that you are better than your parents, or better than your circumstances, or better than what someone says that you are. You are the master of your destiny. And this is what I tell the kids, and I say, don't get tattoos. I have spiels for all of my kids. And so now I go every Tuesday, I go over to juvenile court and I represent the Marios and the Tracys and the Richards and the Marcuses and the Juliuses. It doesn't stop. These kids are still out there. And I go into court and I say, this is what's going on in their lives at home. This is what's going on. This is why they're here. Something needs to change in our community. It's not brain science. I see it. And this is why we're coming together as community leaders and we're talking about these things, because truth in sentencing doesn't work. Mass incarceration doesn't work. Our prisons are overpopulated. The only people that are making money are the private prisons. We can't just prison and incarcerate our way out of this. And these groups like in Baltimore, in Indianapolis, but especially here in Las Vegas, where we have John Ponders, and we can't duplicate him, but we need to find other John Ponders and duplicate this program. And I became involved because I needed a place for my kids when they got out of prison. I couldn't do it alone. I needed other people to help me do it. So luckily we have Hope for Prisoners here. So I became a board member and I got on the board. And what was really telling for me was when John came and said, we need money for graduation tonight. And I was writing $250 checks to pay for the food at graduation. And I said, you're gotta be kidding me. We don't have legislative funding for this? And we don't. And we're still existing on a shoestring. Yes, we're sitting in a Metropolitan Police Department room holding graduations and everything, but there needs to be legislative funding in every state. Because this is a program that works and is going to reduce recidivism and bridge the gap between the offenders and the community. And so this summit, and that's what this is all about, is figuring out ways to help our communities live and work together and bridge the gap and the funding. The funding is a huge part of this. And so I'm just one defense attorney, but I see what needs to be done. And I know that there are many others, like my kids here, the Angel Diaz's who are in prison still, the Miguel Canos who are at work right now, who served 20 years at 15 years old, who are back in our community. And I thank everyone who shared their stories yesterday. And my 4 kids who are 8, 9, 12, and 14, who consider these boys and Tracy their extended family, who love them as if they're their family. And they're not convicts, and they're not murderers. They're brothers and their family. So thank you.
Can we give Kristina Wildeveld the team member? She talked about the amount of time that they served, over 100 years collectively. When she said that, I'm looking up on the platform right now, I'm seeing the subject matter experts. Right? They are the subject matter experts, right? They're the Antons and they're the Vitos that now can come out into the community and think about, right? They were locked up when they were 14, 15 years old and did all that time. And I know that the men that were represented on the platform, they're hope for prisons graduates. And what our goal is, what our job is to be able to help them to turn right back around and help some of the other men and women, the kids, to, get through those things. So can we give those subject matter experts a gigantic hand, please? So as we talked about some of our successes